Right, well, thank you. Good afternoon to all of them. As it says, I'm Richard. I'm a pre-sales consultant. I've done a bit of security, though, over the years from the wireless side. So, first of all, a little bit about Open Reality. Well, we all know who Open Reality is. Anybody not know who Open Reality is? Nope. Makes my life easier. I only joined Open Reality in 18. Been there just over a year. However, I've been working with them for over 10 years, so probably almost from day one, from the security side. And they've been a customer of mine for 10 years, but I was a customer of theirs from the wireless side. I've done a fair bit of wireless. I've worked with a number of people here. Yes, I've had experience of Aruba, Ruckus, Siemens, Arista, Cambion, Aerohive. To some extent on some of them, more of an extent on others. Had instructor certifications for Arista and Ruckus and also Symantec. Symantec from the blue coat, so from the security side of it. So what we're going to look at today, or this afternoon, is the reducing of your attack surface. So what we're talking about from an attack. Well, it might not be an attack. It might just be a client doing what clients do. Go and connect to networks. We'll be looking at the defending of the evil twin. Well, what's the evil twin? Are we talking about just a fictitious version of your corporate SSID? What about the fictitious, the cloud SSID that's popped up? Your client device goes and connects. Is it who we think it is? We'll identify those rogue APs and the personal hotspots. Well, personal hotspots, great for the user, not so good from the RF side of it, which is what we've been talking about before. And then we'll look at the web and the application control from it. So we'll reduce the attack surface. So from a security perspective, there's this concept of what they call the CIA triad, or the triangle. We've got the integrity, the confidentiality, and the availability. Remove any one of those, and you don't have a network. If my network is being used for stuff I don't want it for, the availability disappears. I've lost my network. Is the AP who I think it's connecting to? Is it, from an integrity perspective, is it supposed to be secure? Is it secure? So we have the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability. As I said, remove any one of those, and we have a problem. So if we look at the attack surfaces, so the areas that you could be exposed to. Pre-shared keys. How many people use pre-shared keys? Everybody. Who knows the key? Everybody. You know, it's pre-shared. Keys will be shared. When do they get changed? How often do people change their pre-shared keys? 6 months?
Rework, never.
Yeah, exactly. Why? Because it is awkward to go round and change all the client devices. If we have to use a pre-shared key, it may be that perhaps using a personal pre-shared key, various vendors have different names for it, but they're all basically a key that is unique to one user, or one device, or 5 devices. It may be the solution for the pre-shared key if you're using them. That's, of course, if you're not using .1x. We all know that's secure. However, it does require the client, for it to be secure, to be configured correctly. Don't configure it, you might as well not do it. If we're doing BYOD, it needs to be simple. Why does it need to be simple? We don't want to have to manage those devices. This morning, about the authentication with Edgerome, we don't want to have to do every time we come into a new building or a new organisation, oh, can we see your device? Can we configure it, please, so it's correct? It wants to be simple. Take that one step further to the BYOD device. If we use a pre-shared key and that person leaves, do we change the keys? No. The The prevention of the accidental association. So, we've got corporate devices that decide they want to use the guest network. Why do they want to use the guest network? Because we've got a self-sign-up portal. Put an email address in, put some fictitious email in it, and we're allowed access. Why do we do it? Well, it's easier than bringing my device to my home network and connecting, or it might be, well, do you know what? If I connect to the guest network, I can circumvent some of the corporate policy that says I can't get to particular websites. Why are we doing it? Well, we can. Prohibit those corporate devices from joining the guest network. Well, we could have a MAC blacklist or whitelist, whichever way you wanted to look at it. Well, if we're going to do that manually, that's a lot of overhead. I have to put the device in. It might be that we have a list on our radius servers of all the devices that are corporate devices, and if we get a match, you're not allowed to connect to the guest network. That's fine. We could take it a step further and say, well, if we see you connecting to the corporate SSID using .1x and you are associated correctly, you have just authenticated that device to be a corporate device. Well, therefore, that corporate device should never connect to the guest network. So if we see that device connecting, we disconnect it. Or in fact, we never allow it to connect. Corporate devices connecting to that third-party guest network. You have the scenario, multi-tenanted buildings. The Costa Coffee downstairs. What do people do? They'll connect to that network. Do we want them connecting to that network? Are they breaching your security policy? The evil twin. We've all heard of the traditional evil twin of your corporate SSID being rebroadcast from some third-party access point. But what happens if that third-party access point is the cloud's SSID or any of the other well-known public open SSIDs? But it's not. It's some malicious person trying to collect your users' traffic. And they're using the ability of the fact that the client will attempt to connect to all of its known networks. It will go and see what's out there. We've intercepted that user's traffic. If all we wanted was that user's traffic, we've now got it. The client might not even be aware that this has happened. How many times have you walked into a hotel and your phone, your tablet, your laptop has just connected to the network because you've already associated historically. You've added a profile. It automatically connects. It works. But do we know it's the right network? In your environment, do you expect to see public SSIDs appearing? These are all questions you have to ask. The rogue AP and the personal hotspot. So it might be that the corporate devices are making themselves into a hotspot. Why? Well, I want to update my phone and I don't want to use my data connection. I can't put it onto the guest network because we've tied that down for personal devices going to it. They have to be allowed. We haven't got a BYOD. Oh, not a problem. I'll make my laptop into a hotspot, turn on the wireless card, and I connect. What's the security that's going to be used on that hotspot? Probably not a lot. You have no control over it. So ignore from the wireless side that I've now got my airtime being taken. Look at it at the security part of it. Users make phones into hotspots. Well, I could stop it. They're not wired to my network, but they are using my airtime. That could be causing me problems. You might want to deal with those differently. So if there's a phone that's created a hotspot, is that a security risk? Well, no, it's not a security risk in its own right. It might be a security risk, however, when one of my corporate devices associates to it, because that means they're now bypassing my perimeter security. if it's a person making their laptop into a hotspot and that laptop is hardwired, I might want to isolate it from both the wired and the wireless network. Therefore, is some form of WIPs required? Anybody have an idea as to why they should not have any WIPs in the environment, or wireless intrusion prevention, or security? Can we have a show of hands who says that there is a requirement for security? Yes? Who reckons there's no requirement for security? Of any shape? Very few people will have no security. And I'm running on time. We look at then the web and application control. The first thing that we would say is, what's the wireless for? When you design your network, what are you designing it for? That's the big key that says, what do we do about updates? Is it better to block the update instead of controlling the bandwidth or rate limiting? So when we're talking of updates, we're talking about the iPhone or the iOS update or the PhoneOS update. Do we want that happening on our guest network? That 4 gig download or 1 gig download or whatever it is, do we want it? Well, we could historically, we would control the client's bandwidth. We'll give you, 1 megabit per second, for argument's sake. It's great. I now complain that the wireless doesn't work very efficiently. Why do I complain that the wireless doesn't work? Because when I open a browser, things aren't working as how I see them to be working, because your user agent or your client is downloading his updates. Is that update causing you a problem? Well, it may be, it may not be, but it will be causing potentially other users of that network a problem because you're limiting the available airtime or tying down the available air for that application that you don't really want on your network, i.e. the update, because you designed a network that was for guest internet access, web, email browsing, not large downloads. As I said, are the clients even aware that the update's happening? How often do you come to reboot or switch your laptop off and it says, oh, installing updates? Were anybody aware that the download had occurred? No. Limiting your bandwidth to the client, yeah, it will still work. But the user may get an affected user experience, and then they will complain. Do you want to allow those updates on the guest network? These are all questions that you have to ask. Streaming content, it may still work with the reduced bandwidth, but we're still consuming the air. It will buffer. Application control, therefore, may be a better solution for blocking that traffic in the first place. If I've decided I've created a network that I want it to be purely used for web and email, only allow effectively web and email. Block the applications that you don't want on the network. It's much better for the update not to download than for the update to be downloading and slowing everybody down.